6 Baltimore police officers are already charged in the death of a young black man. Now the entire department is being investigated for its use of force, especially in regards to bias against people of color. Demonstrations are after Freddie Gray died in police custody demanded justice and change. The local prosecutor acted swiftly, some say too swiftly, to bring charges last week. Well, this week, the new U.S. Attorney General came to Baltimore to meet with police and the community. She praised the officers who stayed in position facing insult and injury during the protests. But she followed up with an announcement that the department's use of force will indeed be investigated.
This investigation will begin immediately and will focus on allegations that Baltimore Police Department officers use excessive force, including deadly force, conduct unlawful searches, seizures, and arrests, and engage in discriminatory policing.
Well, the events in Baltimore added urgency to a protest in Washington this weekend. It drew mothers from around the country, many of whom had lost children to violent encounters with police. They marched from Capitol Hill to the Justice Department to protest police brutality. Well, Charles Coleman, Jr. is a civil rights attorney and activist. Charles, welcome to Arise Review once again. Loretta Lynch, she's hitting the ground running here. What do you think that she can accomplish with this investigation?
Well, it's interesting to watch that, Julian, because she's sort of been thrown directly into the fire after, the tenure of her predecessor. Now she has to deal with yet another killing of an unarmed black man by law enforcement. And so this is going to be interesting to watch because during her confirmation hearing, a lot of people were concerned about how she would approach the job, particularly in certain aspects, and now we get a chance to find out.
Right, and as a matter of fact, it's right on point here. Of course, she's a prosecutor, and so some would think that she'd probably be more sympathetic to police.
Well, there is that possibility, but I think people understand, and she understands, the significance of the political implications of everything that we've been seeing across the country, and I think she doesn't want another Ferguson on her hands.
I want to talk about the state prosecutor there, Marilyn Mosley. Do you think that she acted too soon in bringing those police officers under charges? What's your opinion on that?
I don't. I think that she knew that she had to make a decision sooner than later, and I think that she acted with the information that she had, but I don't think that she acted hastily. I think that is mostly an excuse or a reason that you're seeing from police unions who are looking to discredit her and ultimately try to push her away from this case.
Well, I want to focus on a couple of other things. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. One of the officers that was charged in Baltimore basically came out and said that the knife that Freddie Gray was carrying was illegal in his mind, and that certainly disputes all the other evidence that has come up in this case.
Right, so there is this conflict there, and that's an issue of actual statutory law, but ultimately I think folks are going to have to side with the state's attorney's office on this, as they're the ones who are going to be the authority, and ultimately it will be up to that office to prove that knife was not illegal. But at the end of the day, that is not what this case is going to turn on. This case is going to turn on whether excessive force was used with respect to what happened subsequent to Freddie Gray coming into police custody.
We are talking about patterns and principles that have been occurring around this all over the country. Of course, Ferguson, I guess, was the catalyst that ignited this, but of course also the case in Cleveland with young Tamir Rice. What has happened with it? Because we haven't heard anything about that, or the case in North Charleston.
Well, I think one of the things that you're looking at when you talk about that is a significant difference between prosecutors. Marilyn Mosley wanted to make a statement, and she wanted to be very clear to not only the police department, but also the city of Baltimore, that she was going to take this seriously. I think that when you look at Ferguson, for example, and the way that Bob McCullough handled that case, and what you're seeing now in Cleveland with respect to Tamir Rice, there's a significant difference. And I think a lot of it boils down to how serious are prosecutors in these respective jurisdictions about going after these cops and prosecuting these cases.
Okay, some would say it could be a rush to judgment in Baltimore, others say it may not be. But what has happened here, I guess it would stem any tide of violence, that something was done with these officers being charged. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be found guilty. I guess the question here is, okay, they're being brought to justice. Many times we've seen this happen in the past, the officers get off. We saw it in L.A. With Rodney King. They were acquitted. Of course, huge riots there. What do you think might happen in this case? I know it's kind of like you're being a fortune teller. That's what you're not. But what are your thoughts about this?
Obviously, with any trial situation, Julian, it's incredibly difficult to tell or predict what an outcome will be. I think what you can sort of bank on, and we've already started to see this, are police unions and the police unions in Baltimore, that community really giving a significant amount of pushback. I don't think that the effort to recuse Marilyn Mosley is over. I don't think that's the only thing that we'll see from them. I would expect them to try to change the venue outside of the city of Baltimore to get a more favorable jury in Baltimore County. So whereas I can't at all predict what the outcome will be. What I do certainly predict are a lot of stall tactics and diversionary tactics from the police community in that city.
Well, we've been seeing also recently, we've been talking about this before the show with my producer, you're comparing apples and oranges. Unfortunately, 2 police officers in Mississippi were murdered.
Yes.
And then, of course, a 24-year-old officer in New York City was also murdered at the hands of just ridiculous, crazy people.
Sure.
You see the media reports surrounding this, though, and you have people that are saying, well, we love our police. I'm bold enough to say that people who are against police brutality are also pro-police, too. They're just against police brutality. And we're not seeing that being portrayed in the media.
Right, and I don't understand why, as you said, this is a conversation of apples and oranges. This is not a conversation that is mutually exclusive of each other. You can be pro-police and also be anti-police brutality. At the end of the day, people want to feel protected by those who are called to protect and serve them. And so when you talk about being anti-police, that's not what this discussion is about. People want justice, people want equality, people want to be treated fairly.
Right.
That's what you're hearing.
Well said. Charles Coleman, Jr., thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Julian.
All right.